Friends, to another reading. Life is complicated and it's not always easily explained. So just bear that in mind as we go through this reading, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. So Rev Michael Gott says, good must be revealed. Good must be revealed. First quote is from Brené Brown, who says, when we have the courage to walk into our story and own it, we get to write the ending. When we have the courage to walk into our story and own it, we get to write the ending, which I think is pretty good actually. And combination of Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker and Richer Living, this is what they say. Life is a pattern of wholeness, and all details fall into their right place and are completed with ease. And this is Rev Michael Gott, who says, and I'm changing this a little bit. This is not a literal reading. It's close. I'm not changing the meaning of it, but I'm just changing the way it's expressed. He said that in New Thought, there's sometimes a tendency to avoid complexity and practice what's known as spiritual bypass. And then he goes on to say that the teachings in New Thought, whether it be science of mind, unity, divine science, and more, he says, they tell us that the divine is present in all situations. And then he says, but to say it's all good, it's all God, as a way of avoiding pain or grief, is unwise when applied to ourselves, and it's unkind when applied to others. I'll come back to it. Our oneness with God is inviolable and eternal. Right, if God is all there is, then we're one with God and always have been, always will be. He says, and in this human lifetime, with all its depth, complexity, and pain, there is another expression of the divine, and because it's one human, one infinite life. Everything that's expressed is God in expression. And he says it's all sacred. And then he quotes from Dr. Jill Carroll, who apparently spoke at Unity of Houston, where he's the senior minister, and says that she's not a fan of spiritual bypass. I don't think any honest teacher of New Thought, religious science, unity, whatever, is. And then he says the oft-quoted Romans 8:28, attributed to Paul, may or may not be, says, all things work together for the good of them that love God. And then he says, Dr. Jill offered a word that helped me enormously in reconciling the pain of human experience and the good of God. Integration. When we integrate our losses and our disappointments into the fullness of our lives, we can begin to understand that deeper truth of the saying, always good, always God. And if you listen to Emma Curtis Hopkins, who taught an awful lot of the leaders in New Thought at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th centuries, she equates the two. She says, your good is your God and your God is your good. So when you say always good, always good, always good, always God, always good, then Emma Curtis Hopkins would have said, yeah, of course, because it's the same thing, really. And then he says, if we're willing, we have the opportunity to integrate every moment of our life's journey into a seamless whole. The joys and the triumphs, the sorrows and the setbacks, which are all part of the story of our becoming what we always were, the light of the world. Okay, so it's not easy. There's always been this problem of reconciling, hey, God is all good, then how does bad stuff happen? There was a big debate about this in one of our classes, and it's not easily answered. But the answer that came out mostly to most people was free will. Why do we have evil going on? Because we have freedom of choice. And if we didn't have freedom of choice, then we'd all be automatons. If there really wasn't, at the end of the day, no choice. And I think a few, I was going to say lessons, a few readings ago, he did talk about this. See, if there's no choice, then everything's predetermined. And if everything's predetermined, then that really does put a big block on all things. But if you say there's freedom of choice, if there's free will, then we're free to choose to do things. But I think, to me, the answer is that at the end of the day, if you have faith, everything is going to work out, not only for you, but for everyone and everything. And to deny that there's evil in the world is, well, it's clearly wrong. There is, right? There's stuff that goes on that's not what you might call good. It's not for everyone's benefit. And some of it's not for anybody's benefit. So as I said, if you realize that free choice, freedom of choice, free will, has got its price, which is that people can choose to do wacky things, then you have to accept that that is all part of life. The other thing in spiritual bypass is that because it's taught, it's done unto you as you believe, right? That if somebody's sick, then they've brought this on themselves because it's done unto you as you think, or done unto you as you believe, right? But the answer is, it isn't as simple as that. It really isn't, because there's a lot of people thinking and feeling, and there's a lot of stuff going on. We don't know truly everything that goes on in our subconscious minds. And a lot of what we attract to ourselves that we call bad or evil is stuff that we don't choose to do. It's because of all the programming that's in our brains, and that's why we do our spiritual work, is to get rid of all that stuff and use other techniques, such as emotional freedom technique, counselors, therapists, psychiatrists, to get rid of all the crud that's in there, because we've all picked up junk as we've gone along in life, and even more now with the internet and cell phones and information so easily available. And and I know there is a lot of junk out there. I mean, there's videos about everything, and a lot of it, I mean, instinctively, this just isn't correct. I got a friend who's always on Facebook and wherever else, and she picks all this stuff up. She doesn't analyze it. She just throws it out there. And you can't do that. You can't even trust AI to give you accurate answers. You've got to check on them. And Google Gemini will tell you that. Gemini can make mistakes. And it's made mistakes for me. It gave me a wrong formula. And I checked with ChatGPT and came back, and Gemini said, yep, you're correct. The formula I gave you was wrong. I gave you an old one. There's a later one. But the point is this, that when we do our spiritual work, when we have that strong foundation, we can withstand whatever goes on. And we have the support of our communities even more to help us. People reach out to me for spiritual mind treatment, for emotional freedom technique. Why? Because they need help. And that's all part of life, and it's all good. And as Emma would say, it's all God. So I integrate every aspect of my spiritual journey into a unified whole. I'm on the path to integrating every aspect of my spiritual journey into a unified whole is my truth. And my affirmation is, I integrate every aspect of my spiritual journey into a unified whole. Why? Because I'm affirming what I want to happen. I have no need to regret or hide any of my past, all of which led me to the freedom I now experience as I reveal my authentic divine self. Once again, it's an affirmation. It may or may not be the truth about me right now, but it's what I'm affirming that I want to be. And that's what affirmations are. They're affirming what you want to become, or what you want to remain if you've already got there. So that is my long-winded diatribe on today's reading. As I said, my colleague Reverend Lisa is always on, usually 9:15 in the morning, Creative by Spiritual Center's Facebook page. See me on whatever social media you find me, and I'll be back tomorrow. And I'm knowing for each and every person here that they are easily able to release that which no longer serves them. And I claim this as truth in the divine mind, and I call it down, and so it is. So until tomorrow, namaste.